I also think it's weird when they say, like, go back to England, because no one says, by the way, to American promoters, like, go back to America.
Pro boxing fans here in London for the announcement press conference for Zhang versus Joyce. With me, I've got journalist royalty in Ariel Helwani. How are you, sir? You all right?
Doing great. Yes, thank you for being here. Appreciate those kind words.
Just good to have you around. You know, there is a big fight announced. I know you're here for the WWE, which the Money in the Bank event's going to happen this weekend, but they've utilised your services well. Let's talk about this fight, though. Zhang, Joyce. Good fight, tough fight for Joe second time around. There's a lot of people are saying he needs to make a lot of differences to this fight. Do you feel like he can make enough of a difference to his game to beat Zhang?
I think so. I mean, he was a huge favorite going into that first fight, and it was incredible theater. Anytime that you see a fight where you think that one guy's just going to like roll through the other guy, and then all of a sudden you're like, holy smokes, is there an upset brewing here? And then eventually you see the upset materialize, and I think there were a lot of questions as to how he would respond. Would he, even go for the rematch? Would he go in a different direction? Joe has been vocal in the past about not growing up a boxing fan, not being obsessed with boxing, not being in love with boxing, just something that he enjoys. And so you wonder if after a loss like that, his love, his passion, whatever you want to call it, for the sport would dissipate. And so the fact that he's taking the rematch, he's looking to right the wrong, he's looking to get back on the horse, and hopefully takes this fight very seriously, because I think a lot of the talk going into the fight back in April was a bit of a distraction, like, oh, this is the fight, you get it out of the way, and then it's Tyson or Usyk or whomever. And, you don't get those fights if you don't win this one. And so hopefully he's 100% motivated and confident and eye on the prize. And then if he wins this one, then he gets back on the horse.
In his way, though, you've got a big unit in Zhang. We saw that backhand keep going through Joe's defense. I know it eventually affected his eyes so much that the fight had to be stopped. I'm just saying, at 37 years old, you've been around the game a long time, you spoke to a lot of fighters at 37 years old, been around the game a long time, Joyce has. Can you make enough of a change to his style? A lot of people saying he needs to move his head. Do you think he can do that this late stage in his career?
Yeah, and it's, 5 months, right? Not a lot of time. You find out a lot about a fighter when they are coming off their first pro loss, right? How do they respond, especially a stoppage? And I know it wasn't a traditional, I know he said it was the ref that stopped it or whatever. Like, I think he was done at that point, to be honest, to be fair. And, we'll see. Like you said, mid to late 30s, there's a lot on the line. Is the motivation there? Is Zhang just one of those guys that has his number? We've seen that as well, right? Like, there's just certain matchups that don't favor one guy. But, we've seen recently, just a couple of weeks ago, comes to mind, Lee Wood fought Mauricio Lara, and people were like, that's too soon. He should go and fight someone else, or he should take some more time. And look at how he fought in that fight. So a lot can change in a few months, and I think Joe is smart enough to know that if he loses this one, everything goes up in smoke. And so I feel like we're going to see the best version of him.
In combat sport, we do like a bit of pantomime, we do like a bit of social media banter. We see Tyson Fury doing it, we see a few of the heavyweights doing it, but it's got to a point where no one's fighting and the fans are getting frustrated. You've covered, obviously, the MMA and everything else for a long time. How much of a frustration is this for fans right now that we're not seeing the big boys in the elite division of boxing not fighting each other?
It's a huge frustration, and I'm not here to point a finger at anyone, but I would say it's not just frustrating, it's annoying. It's like a turnoff at this point. I don't want to see any more tweets. I don't want to see any more threats. I don't want to see any more Instagram posts and stories and all this stuff, and I got a big announcement and teases. And meanwhile, you've got the 135ers who are fighting each other. You've got the 140-pounders who are fighting each other. You have the women, by the way, who are all fighting each other. It's like every weekend it's another unification bout. You've got big fights happening almost weekly. Boxing is having one of its best years, in my opinion, in a very long time. Tank Garcia, Spence Crawford, Cameron Taylor. We've had a ton of big fights, and I feel like it's everyone doing their part to make boxing as fun and lucrative as possible, except for the big guys, except for the industry leaders, except for the people who are supposed to set the tone. And it's a shame, because these guys aren't getting younger, and these fights are just, they're just falling by the wayside. So I'm happy that we're getting this fight. It looks like we're getting Dubois Usyk. I'd rather see Usyk Fury. Dubois Usyk is not a bad, number 2 choice. And hopefully by the end of the year, we see Fury back in there. We see Joshua back in there. We see Wilder back in there, because all of this is getting a little tiresome.
Just a final few for myself. Talking about pantomime, we've seen a back and forth for the last maybe week or two from Oscar De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn. I'm sure you've seen the exchange last night as well. What do you make of this? I know Eddie's a friend of yours,
I don't know about friend,
but somebody that you get on with, you have a good relationship with on screen anyway. What do you make of this thing that he's gone with other promoters? Not even Oscar, but everyone else.
Yeah, I think it's weird that everyone seems so triggered by him and bothered by him. And I also think it's weird when they say, like, go back to England, because no one says, by the way, to American promoters, like, go back to America. Like, no one tells WWE go back to America. No one tells UFC go back to America. So why is that like this in America towards the British box promoters who come over? So, that's all fun. I think people I'm okay with that stuff, as long as it doesn't deter the promoters from working together if need be to put on the biggest fights, right? As long as PBC will still work with Matchroom and Golden Boy will still work with Queensberry, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like, that is annoying. But this back and forth stuff, and honestly, like, Oscar has this grudge against Eddie. It's a little bit weird, but I think it's because he thinks that Eddie kind of meddles in his business. But mainly, I feel like it's because Eddie gets asked about it all the time. He does a gazillion interviews a week, and he gets asked about Ryan Garcia and all this stuff, and so he takes like these little cheeky shots at him. But overall, it's fun, and I don't think it's bad, as long as it doesn't stop them from actually working with each other when fights need to be made, co-promoting, between them.